It is officially 7:15, so why don't we get started? Welcome, everybody. It's great to see everyone, even if we are seeing you all virtually. As you saw through the agenda, at least for the foreseeable future, we're going to continue to do our business on Zoom. So we did a great job with it this spring. It's just going to keep on going. So let's move on to our agenda, public participation. If anybody from the public has anything that they would like to share, anything that's not on the agenda that they might want to share. Sandy, quick question to you. How are the COVID numbers in Bolton right now?
I haven't gotten an update since Monday, but we were at 30 confirmed cases, no additional hospitalizations or deaths.
Okay.
And we have
Has
no
that
new
been
cases
holding
since then.
steady?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Have we been sort of holding steady? I know it's up, but I mean, has it been a gradual, or have we seen any sort of spikes?
I wouldn't call it a spike, but there has been a weekly increase for about the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
We held at 24 cases for a very long time.
Okay. Well, the Delta, an additional 6 is a small percentage. So not that I want to see any increase, believe me. If there's no other public participation, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. The minutes are from our June 18th meeting. I do have one item on section 4C, Board of Ed update. I complimented Joe Maselli and principal of Bolton High School and superintendent of schools, Kristen Hecht, on their great work putting together the high school graduation at the Mansfield Drive-In. So if you could just change 8th grade to high school or senior graduation. Yeah, the high school graduation.
Yep, I'll take care of it.
Thank you.
I have something small and it's up at the top. If you could scroll back up. And it is just looking for the approval of the minutes. It's more just, it's number 3.
Yeah, I noticed that after I submitted them, and I will put
Okay.
names in there.
Be consistent. Thank you.
Funny, I read KG, knew exactly who that was. Knew CD, knew exactly who that was, moved on.
Now you know how I take minutes.
Fair enough. Just consistency.
Any other comments or changes? It was a fairly short meeting, so.
Yep.
Then, if nothing else, can I have a motion to approve these minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Charlie. I am, I guess by roll call, I will look for approval. Ross.
Aye.
Kristen.
Aye.
Charlie.
Aye.
Dick. Dick Tuttle, do you approve the minutes?
I think you're on mute, Dick.
Yeah, you're supposed to be able to talk when you press the space key, but it's not working. Abstain, not present.
Okay. Bob DiPietro,
Aye.
Bob Monroe,
Abstain, not present.
and myself, yes. I Aye. 3, 4, 5, 6. I got everybody. Okay. So that passes with 2 abstentions. Okay. Next item on the list, elected official and town staff reports, the tax collection summary.
Okay, do you want to start with the June?
Yeah, if you could start with June, sort of finish off last year before we move to this year.
Yep, so our current,
Before you start, Kristen, did you have a question? Your hand's up. You're muted.
No, I did not. I think my hand's up. I apologize.
Okay, sounds good. I just didn't want to make, I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything.
Keep your hands full.
Jill, if you could continue. Thank you. Sorry.
oh, no problem. Okay, so we ended the year with 100.18% for current levy versus last year was 100.41%. The motor vehicles was at 101.58%. Supplemental was 103.43%. Prior year was 113.24%, and interest and fees were 114.42%. And this is all on our revised guesses, but these were on the revised revenues. So anybody have any questions?
Quick, and so we're approximately $80,000 above revised budget projections on collections.
Let me pull up.
Yes.
I gotta go to my other one, which will, it's a little more clear. So I'm looking at my overall, my bigger picture.
Okay.
So it's $84,698.12 over for our revised number.
Okay. Good.
That's on tax. Overall, it was 59,804 because we didn't collect as much revenue in other areas as we thought.
Okay. Thank you.
You want to switch to the other tax revenue now of all the revenues?
Yes. Why don't we do that?
You can see that. You'll be able to see that in that. Yeah.
Sorry, Jill, you're looking for
No,
this forecast?
No. Yep, that's the one right there. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So as you can see, Bob, on the top, second, the column right next to the percentages, we're at 84,698. But if you go down to the total the total town revenue.
Oh, the 59,804.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Nice to have a positive number there.
Well, yes, but if you go, actually, at my mistake, that's miscellaneous. If you go further down, we are at 144,347 for a total of all the revenues over the projected. That's the projected though. And a lot of the stuff we didn't necessarily change. But I mean, and that's good. You're right. It is a positive number and we're happy for it. So it was better than we anticipated for sure. There was a lot more. It was a tough call. We just didn't know what was going to come in.
Right.
Right. So that'll flow into next year's budget once it's audited, correct? Or is it the following year's budget?
Well, it'll be next year's
Fund balance.
Next year's budget.
Yes, yes. But as you know, we have more to talk about later on too. So.
Yes. Mhm.
Yep. So, okay, do you want to do July? Anybody else have any questions?
Well, it's a good start.
Yep.
It's a good way to end one crazy fiscal year to start the next one.
Yep. So July's, yeah, see, I'm not seeing the percentage because I got everybody on the bottom. Let me just, on my screen. I have it up on my, I just can't see the percentages. Oh, yep. Oh, there. Oh. Okay, with everybody on top, then I can see it. No, I can't see it.
So if the percentage I think you're looking for is, if we compare to last year, we're at 74.7.
No, I can't see the percentages on the side. If I full screen it, everybody's on the side. All the faces are on the side, so I can't see it. So I'll just have to put it smaller and squint. So our current levy is 74.79. Am I reading that right?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay, as compared to last year at what, 92.22?
Yep.
All things considering, I think that this is more than we anticipated for July. It was, again, an unknown, having that 90-day period where people didn't have to pay their current levy. It was really a guess, you know, as to what was going to happen. But I think that Lori did very well with her tax collection once again and getting the 74%.
Yeah, and the Bolton,
I'm sorry, Bob?
and the Bolton as well.
Right. So,
I remember when we had talked about it, we thought we might get, you know, maybe we would even get 50% on time. So if we've got almost 3/4 of it, that's actually outstanding. So, and I know if I'm looking ahead, if we look at the August 31st, it bumps up to 82.27%. So, you know, people are, they took advantage of the grace period, but they are still paying their bills. So, which is a great thing.
it's far better than I thought, so I was happy.
Have we gotten a lot of, or I should say, has Lori gotten a lot of calls in terms of people who are unable to pay their tax bills? Just because of COVID and loss of job or anything like that? Have we gotten a lot of inquiries on how do I deal with this?
I don't know if Josh could answer that. I have no idea. I don't go in the office at all. I'm home all the time.
I did speak with Lori yesterday about a few different items. And I know that she's concerned about a few folks who have been behind a couple years on their taxes, not getting it in this year, and that really being a sticking point for them because of a few financial, you know, certain individuals' financial situations. However, she did not mention anything about kind of one-time issues popping up. It sounds like her repeat offenders, for lack of a better term, continue to have problems with paying their levy, but beyond that, she didn't reference anything else.
Okay. Well, that's encouraging. I mean, we still have a few weeks before the final levy is due, so there might be a couple people who thought they could do it and just can't pull it together. So, keep us posted if there's anything we can do. Is there, I mean, do we do one-off situations if somebody can't pay their bill and set up a payment plan or something like that? Is that something we offer? Okay, great. So Sandy is shaking her head yes for those who can't see her or hear her.
Lori works with a lot of people on that type of situation. She is very good with them.
Good. Anything else on the tax collection before we go to the other revenues?
Nope.
Okay.
So this is the July. This is our first month with all of the revenue collection. It's been I believe that we've had no state checks at all. we usually, at this point in time, we usually get our stabilization check and the, I guess just the stabilization now. We haven't received anything from the state yet. Usually July, it's kind of slow, but then we get ramped up because it all depends on when the money comes into my office too, and it gets posted as to when it makes, these revenue sheets. And it's been very difficult going to the bank. They don't let you in the bank, and you sit in long lines in the parking lot. So it's been tough. So there was a little slow for July, us getting to the bank and getting the money in the bank. Nice, the other money that comes in ACH is so much better than the stuff we have to take. So July was a little slow going. But does anybody see anything or have any questions?
Well, you know what, Jill, I took this one with a grain of salt just because of everything you had mentioned, and we had discussed that there's going to be delays. But we're not seeing anything where we should be concerned at this point about some of these funds coming in from the state, correct?
No, not that I know of. Sandy, we did get, not in July, but in August, we did get our first round of town aid roads.
Okay.
Which we waited a long time last year for, almost the whole fiscal year, but we did already get one round of that. I have not heard anything. Have Josh, or you or Sandy heard anything about any problems with any grant money or funds coming from the state?
If not,
I have not.
Okay.
I think they're kind of in the same boat as we are. It's, you have people on and off, and it's just trying to process everything has really been slow going.
Right. Well, and like I said, I took this as a grain of salt for right now.
Right.
A few months down the road would be a bit more concerning.
Right.
Okay.
If you guys do hear of anything that is, from the state end of, hey, we might not get this, definitely bring it to our attention, because that'll be an issue. But you're right. I mean, July there's not a lot to look at. So.
Nope. Right.
Okay.
We usually let you know when there's a problem.
Yeah.
So we do let you know, so. And I think August is pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I didn't print August.
would you like to jump into expenses?
Yeah, why don't we just do that? Anybody else have any question on revenues, tax collection,
Nope.
or other? Okay, then yeah, let's go into expenses.
Very good. So this first sheet that you're seeing here is for the end of fiscal year 2020. This is as of August 31st. As you know, there are still a number of bills that get paid out between that July 1st date and in this case, August 31st. So you're looking at pretty much finalized numbers here for the town side of the budget, unaudited, of course, and still a little wiggle room. But generally speaking, this is about where we're coming down. And as you can see, we were in total 91.60% expended with a balance of $520,048.97 unexpended. So
Surplus.
that's a surplus. And there are a lot of different reasons for that. As you can see, as you go through all of the different lines, there really weren't any budgets aside from the recreation budget, which of course was rolled into the rec round fund, and the probate budget, which is very specifically set to be the cost that we give over to the probate court. There was a surplus in every line. So generally speaking, considering all the hardships that we saw, I think that we did very well. I know that when I started to get concerned about money, it was my encouragement that we try and make sure that we conserve a little bit more than we would in other years. And I think that we've come out in a place that's going to make preserve the town in a forward. And I'll talk a little bit more about that surplus later, but I saw that Richard Tuthill has his hand up.
Yeah. Could you repeat that? The unexpended is 520?
$520, $48.97.
Thank you.
Yep.
Josh,
You get your raise, Rich.
Josh, we just have to remind them that of that 225, is it $225,000 is already being,
Yes, was already promised. We already promised a $225,000 rollover. So it's the difference between those two amounts, which I think is somewhere in the range of, what would that be?
295, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Somewhere in there. That is additional money that either can be rolled over or used for some other purpose. But I'm going to scroll forward now, if that's all right with everybody, so that you can take a look at July 31st of fiscal year 2021. And you can see it's not the rightmost column, but actually fourth from the right. That's the current year percent expensed. So over prior fiscal years, we're pretty much right about in the middle as of July 31st at 10.97% expensed. In fiscal year 20 at this time, we were 16.30. And in prior years, we were a little bit under that 10.97%, but we were at that time falling right into an average. And as we scroll on down to August 31st, which is the most up-to-date numbers, at this time, we are 16.27% expensed, or as of that date. Compared to past years, we're actually under the fiscal year 20 and the fiscal year 19 expensed rate for August 31st. Generally speaking, there's no line that's sticking out to me at this time that's giving me cause for concern. We are probably a little under expensed because we have been trying to continue to be conservative as we've been looking at the money coming in and trying to make sure that we aren't doing blanket purchase orders and things of that nature, just to make sure that we have money in the bank and are just being responsible given the current circumstances. Are there any questions on any of the specific lines that you're seeing for fiscal year 2021? Good. In that case, like I said, there's nothing that's really sticking out at me yet, but we'll continue to keep you posted as I always have.
I do have one question. Our upcoming election, given that they're going to be probably a much larger group doing absentee ballots, does that change any of our planning around elections and how much we need to spend by people manning the polls versus people counting all those ballots?
My understanding is that internally, the answer is yes, this is going to change the operations within the town clerk's office quite a bit. I know that our town clerk, Liz Waters, has been working long hours making sure that everything that needs to be done as per the Secretary of the State's orders is being carried out. I do know that we have a chunk of money that's being delivered from the Secretary of the State's office to help with the administration of this election. I don't know the exact total in front of me. Jill might have that information, but it will help us. I don't believe that there's going to be a change in the number of people that we need to have at the polls in terms of election workers. And a lot of that's just because, you still need the same number of people crossing off names as people come in. At this point in time, it's just too soon to know what election day is really going to look like in terms of in-person voting, especially with concerns about the postal service.
Right. And with everybody voting 2 or 3 times.
Well,
Emily?
Yeah.
Or everyone too, though, but we are getting $2,500, I believe, for, there's two. There's a part that's for the ballots, and then a grant from the state, and then there's a part for safe polling place. One of them is $2,500 and the other is $1,854. So if they have to buy any additional material, materials or postage for the ballots, that you could use it on that. They also, to make it a safe polling place, any, PPE or anything that they need, that type of thing, they can use this money for that. So we're getting two small grants, but it's better than nothing, certainly.
Hey, something is better than nothing.
That's right.
Okay.
Any other questions on expense funds?
Thank you for being conservative and, holding off on doing some of those big blanket purchases. I mean, we're still in hopefully things are in the right direction, but you never know. So any other questions for Josh or Jill on town update? I don't see any hands up or hear anybody, so I'm going to say no. And why don't we go for the Board of Ed update?
Okay.
Kristen, please let me know how you want me to scroll.
Yeah, we're good right there for right now. Thank you. Actually, no, not there, Josh. Can you find FY 2020 for me, please? There we go. Thank you. So beyond the commitment that we had made last spring for $165,000, we were able to return an additional $194,811 to the town unaudited number at this time. A portion of that savings came from negotiated savings with our transportation company, which took a very long time to make happen, but we finally arrived at an understanding. I think it was the end of May. So you see there where we have the various savings in the various areas.
Basically none. They weren't very cooperative.
They were not. So that is behind us at this point. So any questions on this part?
Just an observation, both boards. I mean, I just want to congratulate you both on your stewardship of your budgets, and being able to show up with in difficult times with cash surpluses on unexpected funds. So it's great.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for that. I would offer too that another portion of savings here came as a result of the fact that we didn't utilize substitutes for the most part for most of March, all of April, May, and June. So, for 1/3 of our year, we didn't tap into that particular portion of our budget. So there was some savings had there as well. Okay, Josh, if we could go on, please, to keep going. If you can go to fiscal 2020-21, that'd be great. There we go. Thanks. So at this point, we are 7% expended. I want to call to your attention a number of factors right now. As you did, I think, so very well last year in putting, monies into contingency, because we just don't know. We're working very hard to manage within our means and hopefully not have to come for an ask. So I want to start with that. I need to make you aware that we currently have a number of open positions. We have had people either leave or choose to retire. I would say basically due to COVID. We have 2 open special education positions that we currently do not have any qualified candidates to even fill with. We have an open high school math position that we are still currently trying to fill. We have 5 unfilled special education paraprofessional positions that we are not currently able to fill. I think the thought of working in a school right now, if you don't already work in a school, is very overwhelming for people. And Bolton is not the only place seeing difficulty in filling positions. I will say that.
Wow.
So we're doing our very best to provide quality education to every child and meet the needs of every child. We are and did open in a hybrid model. So we have half of the students coming on Mondays and Tuesday. Everybody is home doing distance learning on Wednesdays, and we have the other half of the kids coming on Thursday and Friday. That has allowed us to adhere to the 6 feet of social distancing in our classrooms. We have cohorted our classrooms as much as is humanly possible. High school level, it gets a little more difficult, but our entire high school staff basically had to move because Joe Maselli did a great job of basically cohorting them by grade. So that has worked out nicely. Couple other things that I would like to call to your attention. We had budgeted for 10 Columbia students. Currently, as of today, we have 5 coming in as freshmen. Although I heard today that we may have 1 or 2 others that will be joining us. So October 1st is always our mark to determine that piece. So I guess I would just say stay tuned on that. I just want to remind everyone that that was a much smaller class, and they had many more students than in my 8 years here they've ever had choose to go to a technical high school.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a different player this year, if you will. Usually they had 1 or 2. They had double digits, it's my understanding.
Interesting.
I also want to make you aware that we have closed out the asbestos abatement project, and we have received $61,599 back from the state for their portion of that project. So that has been closed out in the midst of all this chaos. We did receive $17,146 in the ESSER grant. Our whopping $17,000 amount is based on our Title I information, and we don't receive a lot of funds for Title I, which is why we did not receive a lot of funds for ESSER. All of that money went towards purchasing Chromebooks. We are now a 1-to-1 district. We ramped that up, as you are aware, very quickly. We will need to purchase at least 100 more Chromebooks this year. We have ordered them. They are on back order right now until February. So I am cautiously optimistic that they will be in before the close of this school year. But we put in that order because we know of the delays that are out there, and we have at least 100 Chromebooks that will go out of service at the end of this year. And with projections the way they are right now, I need to make sure that we're able to have one in the hands of every student for ones that just don't work anymore, and as we move into next year. There is additional funding that is going to be coming our way that were funds that the state received from the feds. Having said that, we have been waiting weeks to try to understand from the state how that's going to work. Initially, we were told you're going to get X amount of dollars, and it's in certain categories. The bulk of our money, and hang on, I got to pull up my phone to pull that piece up. So this money, just so everybody knows, I had to do 2 surveys over the summer within like a 3-week window of each other. And both were based on like our best guess at the time of what we thought we might spend on a variety of things, from PPE to cleaning supplies to additional support for transportation, whatever the case may be, as well as additional resources like technology and staff. And while I put in money, quite a bit of it, I clearly articulated the 100 Chromebooks. I articulated the fact that we may need some additional staff. Bolton will not be the receiver of monies for that. Only districts that had 40% or more free and reduced lunch received monies in that category. Our free and reduced lunch number is much lower than that. So we are slotted to receive $2,043 under the personnel portion of cleaning and PPE. Not even really sure what that's going to go towards, to be honest with you, that small amount. In terms of non-personnel related supports for cleaning, PPE, health and safety, we're going to be, as of right now, supposedly receiving $94,000. And for transportation, there were several, roughly 30,000, but I've seen one number that was 24,000 for us, and I've seen another number that was 34,000 from us. Both numbers coming from the state, by the way. But that was for actual money towards transportation, but not to pay our normal bills. So I have asked 3 times now of the state, can we use those monies towards other purchases that we are making, since we're not going to need to use those monies? Initially, when I asked on a call with the Commissioner of Education, he chimed in and said, yes, we could do that. I then made sure I put the question in writing to the Chief Financial Officer for the State Department of Education, and the response I got back was she'd have to get back to me. She didn't get back to me, so I followed up again. She did respond to me late last week and stated that OPM is in charge of this, and she doesn't have any specifics yet, and they'd be getting back to us. We have now been told that the money isn't going to just be pipelined directly to us, that it will now be a drawdown, and that we will have to demonstrate POs or purchases or whatever. We are unclear what that looks like yet, because they have not yet shared with us what that will look like. It's been put off now for weeks. We got word that we should be finding out this coming Monday or Tuesday. I hope that that's true. So I did, along with John's help, we rented air conditioning for Bolton Center School classrooms, because I was extremely concerned about air quality at Bolton Center School with kids with masks on in 90-degree heat, and teachers can't have fans in their room because you can't have fans blowing in, can only blow air out. So the cost of that rental was $58,000. And I have asked the direct question of Kathy Dempsey at the state, would that be covered under the health and safety? I believe it should. She stated she thought so too, but she was going to check with OPM and get back to me. So I guess stay tuned on all of those pieces, but we do have monies coming our way. We have purchased a lot of PPE because it's hard to come by. And in fact, we just placed another order and the cost of PPE has gone up yet again. And that is my update for this evening. Any questions?
I do.
Okay.
You know, when tongue in cheek, Chris and I said, you know, I was planning to give you a call to, you know, my first thing was going to be what's new. Obviously you got more than a full plate, more than ever before. And we had talked previously about special ed. I find your update on special ed, you know, really unsettling. Not that there's anything to do, no fault of Bolton or you or staff, but what do we do? I mean, we're missing 8 people in that area?
Correct. So, I mean, we've got people doubling up and, you know, right now, because we're in a hybrid model, it's a little easier to manage, right? But the minute we're back full, you know, it continues to be a concern. So we put out, you know, we keep trying to refresh the posting, so in the hopes that we get some takers. But you know, one, it's just a tough time to get people to either want to switch jobs from someplace else or want to go into the work to begin with.
And not only that, then you have the public setting too. So you're fighting a lot of battles here. What about supplementing with IAs? Anything help there?
With who? With what?
With,
Paras?
It's,
Paraprofessionals?
yeah,
Well, we're short 5 of those.
instructional assistants, I guess, what, yeah.
Right, yeah, right. Paraprofessionals, same thing. We're short 5 of those as well. So, I mean, right now, you know, we're doing our very best.
No doubt. Difficult road. Okay.
Any risk in terms of, I mean, obviously with a shortage, a little bit easier to manage with hybrid, but are some kids just not getting the services they require? Is there going to be any sort
No.
of?
And not at this time. I mean, all kids are getting the services that they are due according to their IEPs. You know, we have a number of families who have made decisions who have special needs children to not send them to school. That also makes a difference, right, in terms of the supports that happen. You know, if they're not in the building versus if they're at home and they're doing distance learning from home, right? So if they, for example, had a one-to-one paraprofessional while they're in school, well, when they're at home, and if their parents have chosen for them to be at home doing distance learning, for all intent and purposes, their parent is their one-to-one paraprofessional, right? And so they're getting the instruction from the classroom teacher and their special education teacher. But so that's, you know, that also is playing a factor here as well, right? But we're doing a lot of juggling to ensure that our students' needs are met. In the area of special education, the one thing I didn't mention that I just want you to be aware of is the brain injury group out of New York has filed a class action national lawsuit against every public school system, charter schools, magnet schools, and every state department of education. And it is in New York District Court. We are being represented by both Shipman and Goodwin and Kerma. I have spent a lot of hours in the last few weeks on this. It appears that the federal judge seems to think this is frivolous, but didn't totally throw it out, and the plaintiffs had to go back and do some work. So that is a stay tuned in terms of our legal budget for this year, because I have to be sure that we're protected in this case, even though currently we don't have any students involved in the case, but because it's a class action lawsuit and we are named along with 13,000 other entities, I have to be sure that we're protected.
Kristen, I have a question.
Sure, Bob.
If the state doesn't help with the $58,000 for the AC, will you get back to us for replenishing that amount?
My hope is not, Bob. My plan is, you know, for every month that we're not able to fill some of these positions, there's savings there. You know, it's my understanding that it's going to be covered. But if it's not right now, I have a backup plan because we have some positions that aren't filled. And because we had some new hires that came in less, you know, they're newer people, right? Even a couple of positions. So I don't think so, sir. That's my plan.
All right, thank you. Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
I've got one more. The last school year ended under unusual circumstances, and now it started under very unusual circumstances. Kristen, I know you to be a great leader of the system. How, in your opinion, how's the staff holding up to all these adjustments?
You know, our staff has been amazing. We have very dedicated, talented people. I'm not going to lie to you. This has been a very heavy lift. My administrators, we did not have vacation over the summer. We've been flat out since March. Our teachers, I asked for people to serve on our reopening committee, and 48 people volunteered their time over the summer to get us reopened. You know, I think it was very scary for our staff to come back when it was just our staff for 6 days. And I think it was even scarier when kids came back. But I got so many emails the first day of school that, oh my God, once I saw the kids, it's just like it fills your heart, because that's why we do what we do. So, it's a heavy lift because they're live streaming their classroom to the kids at home while they're teaching the kids in front of them. And everybody's having to get used to this new normal, and it's not ideal. And kids are sitting far away from each other, and it's hard to work together, and it's, you can't be hugging your kids, and so it's hard, but they're digging in, and they're working really, really hard, and I'm really proud of them.
Well, please let them know that we appreciate it as well.
I will. Thank you.
Kristen, I've got a question, and before I even ask, just to reiterate our gratitude, because I've heard from other towns, and the staff has not been on board on other towns. It's been very, very different. So it's been pretty amazing to see what the school system here in Bolton, just the staff's been amazing, as well as the Board of Ed too. I would like to throw out gratitude towards them as well, because they worked pretty hard over the summer.
They sure did.
But looking at, some of these expenses that have come up, like PPE, you mentioned that the price has gone up for a third time. And the fact that we need additional Chromebooks, which I would say would be to expected, and I don't think it's any surprise that there's shortages right now. But my question is I guess it's the gouging or the price increase. Are we locked into prices for some of these things like the Chromebooks, or is it just as to be expected, it will probably go up when they are available?
So, we put out all kinds of feelers for things like that, right? And so we locked in the best price we could lock in with a company that we know to be reputable, who we've done business with before, who keeps us informed all along the way, because there are other companies. I've talked to other superintendents, and they can't even get anybody on the phone to give them an answer about things. So, we're trying to be as price conscious as we can be in terms of our purchasing. We have a great supplier that we use for the PPE. We've used a number of suppliers, and we continue to use a number of suppliers because it kind of depends on what we get when. But they've come through for us. But, they're getting it from someplace else, likely China, and the prices are going up because they know that they can, which is why I'm glad that, we have worked really hard since even before this started to stockpile, because we knew we were going to need it. We've converted the Board of Ed conference room. I've got shelving in there now, and we've basically redone the whole place, and we got PPE all set up on shelves so that we know exactly what we have, and because there's no storage anywhere. So we're not locked in.
Okay. Well, and one other question on this, with some of these things that have been put into place, now that we know that we can go remotely, and I think I'm just trying to look ahead to see if there's any possible savings. Will this have an impact on snow days and possibly an elimination?
I sure hope so.
Okay.
But we have yet to have the state tell us that this is what we can use as our plan for snow days. Why that is, for the life of me, I don't know. But my personal belief is when we have a snow day, I'll be saying it's a distance learning day, and maybe the 180-day police can come find me.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I ask a couple quick questions?
Yeah, Dick, you have your hand up. Thanks.
Thank you. Christian, hats off for you, the staff, and everyone who's teaching in your system. Amazing job. I do have one question about this lawsuit in which Shipman and Goodman or Goodwin are representing us. What is the basis of that suit?
So the basis, I'm sorry, I should have said that, Dick. That's a great question. So the basis of the suit is that special education student is that, first of all, we should all be in full school, and that we should have never stopped school to begin with last year when the pandemic first hit, and that we are going to owe either compensatory education or a large fee to families of students with special needs who they are claiming did not receive the services they were entitled to. And I will tell you, in Bolton, they received the services they were entitled to.
Thank you for that. And the second question was, if I'm looking at this, looking forward throughout the entire school year, it strikes me as highly likely that you're going to be in the hybrid model for the entire year. Do you agree with that?
I can't comment on that right now, Dick. So, and the reason why is because it's very fluid. I mean, we had a case the night before school started, and I wasn't sure the night before school started if we were going to actually start school in a hybrid model. So it's day to day and it's hour to hour. Right now, we are in a hybrid model up until October 9th. I shared with families that I would be communicating around the 1st of October what our plan would be moving forward from there. To be honest with you, I would be thrilled if we could make it through the whole year in a hybrid model without a disruption and having to go to distance learning. That would be awesome.
Yes.
I'd be more thrilled if we can come back full, but that is a stretch, to be honest with you. And I'm in discussions with other superintendents on that right now. I have real concerns about that piece. And I'm in, discussions with our admin team and our teacher leaders right now about that. So it's hard for me to answer because literally it's hour to hour.
So what I think I heard you say, it's much more likely that we might have to have a temporary distance learning imposition for let's say a month or so, and then perhaps get back to hybrid than it is we would be full in-person instruction. Is that what you think the odds are right now?
I'm not going to be a betting person on that right now, Dick. And to be honest with you, it could be that we're closed for 2 or 5 days and then we come back, and we could be back in hybrid for a couple of weeks and we might have to close again. It kind of depends on the case situation. I mean, you heard Sandy say, we have had a little uptick. And if you look at the timing of it, it's around the time that school started.
No, I don't have this.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I think reading between the lines, I think I've got an accurate picture of what you think may happen, the most likely pathway. Anyway, thanks so much for that. And by the way, there are a number of retirees in Bolton who I think might be interested in doing some mentoring, perhaps in their selected fields. So. Let's talk about that sometime.
Sounds like a plan. I just got to get through the next month, okay?
I know. That's why I said sometime.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Any other questions specifically for Kristen on anything we've talked about so far?
Emily, can I throw one more thing in there? I know you're going to talk about this a little later, but this is our year for teacher negotiations for the 2021-22 through 2024 school years. And the last time we negotiated, I tried to see if we could do an off-the-record negotiation, and that didn't happen. But this time around, the teachers approached me and the board and asked if we could do that. So we have reached a tentative off-the-record agreement that has been filed with the town clerk that Emily's going to talk about a little bit later, or maybe now, I'm not sure when. But I just wanted to make you aware of that. And I think that it is a very fair deal for the town of Bolton. And I think it's a very fair deal for our teachers. And I think it saves the town a good amount of money having been able to accomplish it this way without a lot of lawyer fees and mediation fees. And certainly if we had to go to binding arbitration, there's a huge savings there. Thank you.
Yes, Kristen, actually, that's where I was headed next. So, so yes, I have been involved with, actually, Josh, you can probably stop sharing screen because none of this is in what you have. Thanks. So a tentative agreement has been reached between the teachers and the Board of Education. It was off the record conversations. Really, both sides were really trying to figure what is the most fair deal for everyone, for the town, for the teachers going on. I was thrilled at how all the conversations went. It was definitely an educational experience for me as first time I had sat in on this. I know Bob Monroe, you were involved in the last several teacher negotiation rounds. So I have to say it is, if you look at the overall where the contract that was tentatively agreed on, we came in over the 3-year period of an 8.45% increase. If you take a look at a couple other benchmarks that are out there, at the time of when they were having these negotiations, the average for the contracts that had been agreed on was higher than that. There was one at 9.36 and one at 8.84. So the agreement that they reached came in below that. Now, since then, more contracts have been finalized, and we are still sort of in the lower end of that, which I think, you know, kudos to both sides to really get something that is solid and I think very workable. I have sort of the next steps is for this to go to town meeting. And there is a tentative date for the town meeting. If I am correct, Sandy, October 6th. There is, right?
That's correct.
There is still some question out to the governor, to the state, of how do we do a town meeting? Because a town meeting is basically you get the town into in a room and you raise your hand or you say aye and you vote. And at this point, that is not something that can happen. So I think we're still waiting on some direction from the state as to how to have the town meeting for approval by the town for this agreement. Sandy?
Actually, we have gotten some information back from cost that says we could hold an in-person town meeting. We just have to be able to do the social distancing, meaning it would probably have to be held at the school. So we're also working with COST, the Council of Small Towns, to see if we can get some permission to hold a totally remote town meeting. It's not permitted currently under our charter or under the state statutes, but we're not the only town with this kind of an issue, so they're working very quickly on it for us.
Thanks. Well, keep us posted as to how this needs to go forward. If in a normal world, town meeting would happen, and hopefully I'm going to be, you know, speaking at that, talking about what the contract, the tentative agreement is. As Kristen said, by the fact that we did this off the record, we are saving ourselves serious money with lawyer fees and mediator fees. If it goes to town meeting and is not passed, it will then go straight into binding arbitration, which could be upwards of $100,000. So it is obviously in the town's best interest if this is something that is supported and moves forward, because obviously we don't want to spend that money on that. One other thing that I wanted to point out to everybody that this contract does that I was very pleased with. I mean, we are a small town, and as Kristen has said, we try to attract the best teachers. One of the pieces of this contract is that we are the base, step one, the base salary has increased. So we are upping our base salary. I've learned a lot. So step one is going away. We've inserted another step. So the penultimate step is closer to the other one. I didn't know what that meant 2 months ago, but it is a way to overall shift the pay range up and bring all of our levels closer together so that the progression through the steps is much more even. Kristen, would that be a reasonable way of describing it in layman's terms?
Yes, very good. Thank you.
So it is, I think, a very, very reasonable contract. It definitely hits all the, the marks in terms of everybody's needs there. So that's my 2 cents there. So stay tuned in terms of when that meeting is and how it's going to take place.
Emily?
Yes.
It might be helpful, and I'm pretty sure you might have it, though, since we didn't get into the level that we normally do in the negotiations with preparation and documents, to have the overall cost of the increase over the 3-year period broken down into each year, so that people can balance that against I believe about $50,000 that we reserve per year for legal, which wouldn't need to be spent, and potentially, upwards of another, $100,000 in other expenses if we had to go further. It might be helpful just to balance them off a little bit.
Yeah, my plan is to put together obviously some slides that shows all that. I have the contract, the tentative agreement in hand, and it does lay out year 1, year 2, year 3, what is the cost been for each of those. And yes, it would be interesting to say, okay, what are we saving in legal fees and potentially arbitration fees that help offset some of this. So I will incorporate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions about the teacher contract?
I have an additional observation. I think it's great that, hey, the more of the stuff that can be done away from the table informally, instead of getting entangled in a formal process and people's taking harder positions than you really want to, is always a good thing. So I'd just like to say, way to go there too.
So, anything else for Kristen, Board of Ed? Okay, then let's, actually anything else for town or anything, because then we'll move to the next item of new business. Okay, new business. Josh, I'm hoping that you can fill us in, or Josh and Sandy can fill us in on what is going on with Enrico Road.
Sure thing. So first, a backstory for everybody before we start talking numbers. But back in June, I received a communication from our highway foreman, Lance Dimmick, who informed me, along with our town engineer, Joe Dillon, that there is an issue up on Enrico Road. It appears that something underneath the road has collapsed. We need to do some form of inspection, some form of survey, so that we can figure out exactly what's going on. That was conducted in the last fiscal year, and we did a video survey. So that allowed us to see the full extent of exactly what was going on underneath the road. And it turns out that the stormwater collection system underneath the road has in fact collapsed on a certain stretch of the road. And in order to fix it, we've received an estimate from that same company that did the survey of just under $220,000 to correct this issue. I've been informed by Joe Dillon, our town engineer, that correcting this issue now could help to preserve the rest of the piping around that area, but that leaving this issue as it is throughout the winter, given how much freezing will or may occur in those pipes, will likely lead to further destruction and will lead to costlier end results, more in the range of $500,000 to $1 million, $500,000 to $1 million. This is something that we didn't expect. This is not something that you'd expect from concrete of this age, and that's something that we're going to continue monitoring, and that I want to be upfront with you. I may be coming back in the future, and there may be further issues with the concrete that was used for this piping. But right now, we're at a situation where we really need to act before the temperature begins to drop in order to correct this situation. My understanding, after speaking with the selectmen, who unanimously voted at their last meeting, it was a special meeting, to forward this recommendation to you to send a request for $220,000 in appropriation to town meeting. After speaking with them, after speaking with the town engineer, we have a very good price to make these corrections. And I'll bring it up on your screen right now. All of the board members did receive this in your email in case you want to follow along on your own. But otherwise, you can see it up on my screen here. The official quote, this did just come in today, and the official quote did come out to be $213,850. And as you can see, there are two different size pipes that need to be installed, and then there's a fee just for simple mobilization of this company's crews that needs to be accounted for. There's quite a number of feet of piping that needs to be installed in order for this to go well. The information they sent us did give a short outline of exactly what work they will be doing in the area in order to make this happen. Secured in place pipe installed at locations, at the location of Enrico Road. And overall, I wholeheartedly recommend, with the unanimous support of the Board of Selectmen, that we go ahead with and that you forward a request to town meeting to appropriate $220,000 for the completion of this project. And I just want to reemphasize once again the importance when the weather gets cold. Happy to answer any questions.
Sandy has her hand up. You're muted. Sandy?
Did I miss something?
There we go. Thanks. I just wanted to point out to you that that $213,000 is a quote without a performance bond, and that will increase the cost of that by 2%. And I think the town would be negligent in not taking or requiring the performance bond, even though there is a price on it. The cost of fixing someone's mistake, if we can't get a fire truck down on the road after this, is definitely worth the 2% cost.
Absolutely, Sandy. Thank you. I should have also pointed out that as of right now, this isn't really impacting the passability of the road. The pipes that have collapsed are just so happens to be near the side of the road. But if this were to expand due to ice, due to freezing that's occurring, or that does occur over the winter, it may expand into the road and result in the closure of Enrico Road, which of course we can't allow to continue.
Okay. Dick Tuttle, you said you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yeah. Why would we be doing this without going out with an RFP?
We still do have an opportunity if we so choose to make that happen. This company was chosen off the state bid list with the help of our town engineer. Our town engineer knows all about the requirements that we have to go through in order to, meet the state standards. My understanding is that all of those check boxes have been met, or all those requirements have been met by going with this company because they participate in that state bid.
Yeah, but as a general rule, I'm pretty much opposed to going out to no bid contracts.
And that's a fair point. There's certainly an argument to be made that anything that we did to go out to bid has a chance of being a lower price. That doesn't change the need for an appropriation at this time. And given the time sensitivity of the project, first and foremost, that might be an argument in favor of going with this contract. But on the other hand, it doesn't change the fact that we do need an appropriation, even if we do decide to go out for bid and try and secure this at a lower cost.
Just a couple of comments, though. The proposals that you get back may have significant technical differences.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, and there may be a legitimate reason to authorize even more money. I mean, how many times have we seen that we've gone out for proposals and nobody comes in except for one company under the bid, and then they weren't really qualified to do the work. Now, I guess you don't have that much of a concern here, but as a general rule, it's always better to go out for bids. That's all I'll have to say on that.
Okay. Charlie, did you have a question as well?
Yes, I do. Thank you. First of all, I noticed we're looking at 1,300 feet of pipe. How many feet of pipe are in that road? Is this a third of the road? Is this a half of the road? How big a job is this? You know what I mean?
Sure. To be honest, Charlie, I don't have that number right in front of me. I believe that it's less than half the road.
Yeah, I think it is. This is about a quarter of a mile of pipe, and the road is a little bit over a half mile long. It is a cul-de-sac.
All right, so yes, I'm aware of the road. The question I would then ask is this failure of the pipe, is this located at one end or the other, or is it during a portion of the road halfway down? What I'm leading up to is it a situation where if we have not only failure of this pipe, which is occurring, I guess, but could it be leading into failure for the entire street? Or is it just going to be the end of the street? Or
oh, sorry, Sandy, go ahead.
I think we did have the entire street video checked, and the proposal that we have in front of us is replacing that pipe, which after our town engineer reviewed the video, what he suggested we replace to have not only the failed pipe, but all suspect pipe. And there will be some areas that that don't look at this point like they need replacement. That's not to say in 2 years they won't, but today they don't. And we don't, anticipating someone else's question, we don't know if these pipes were made with concrete that could have contained the pyrite, which is causing the foundation issues in Connecticut, because the town of Bolton didn't build the road. It was built by the developer. So we don't know the source of those pipes, and we won't know until we dig them up if they have that concern. But this road does have a hill on the beginning of it, and the failure is partially down the hill.
okay, so what I'm looking at then is the request for the pipe to be repaired. And it is time of the essence because we don't want to be looking at possible additional damages occurring that may occur eventually anyway, but just it's more like a stopgap, keep the costs down kind of situation. Is that fair to assume, or?
I think the hope, Charlie, is that by repairing this and making sure that the pipe is working satisfactorily, we'll make sure that the rest of the pipe never fails. But yes, I think that it is fair to say that we're trying to get this done sooner rather than later in the hopes of preventing future further costs.
So that lends itself to having almost an emergency situation that would preclude that going out for bids might not be the best way of handling it.
Good point, Charlie.
Yeah, and I also want to mention to you that if this had happened in April, we wouldn't be having this conversation because we would have done the project out of the funds that we just returned to the town. Unfortunately, the timing of this was after the budget had been passed, and we got the report in mid-July after we were unable to encumber something from last year to this year. So chalk it up to 2020.
I've got a question on this, and I think it's also just to clarify. So it's not the entire road, it's only part of the road. However, if the entire road does in fact contain pyrrhotite or whatever is causing the problem, it does need to be the whole road at one point, right, to be replaced?
I would tell you that if they start digging, that there's a potential that they could find something. But I think at this point, the chance of that, based on the video surveys that we have, the chance of them finding pipe issues beyond what they've told us they found are relatively slim. Now,
Yeah.
but I don't know what, Mother Nature gives us a bad winter with lots of rain and freezing, and the pipes are stressed. Who knows what's going to happen? I can't get.
This is Ross, and I would just think that there's probably a good likelihood that the contractor who put in the road used pipe from the same supplier for the whole thing, and that whatever goes wrong with this section, it's probably a likelihood that the same thing could happen sooner rather than later, perhaps, with the rest of the road. And so I'm thinking this would be something for us to keep in mind when we look at the budget for next year. Just to keep that in the back of our minds. And, it's also going to depend on what you find when you dig it up. But I would just think there's the likelihood the rest of the street could have similar problems in the near future.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is that this particular developer also did a large number of streets in that area and subdivisions. So
about the same time?
Within a year or two of each other.
Yeah, so there's the possibility they could have gone to the same supplier for other area.
Yeah, so we don't know.
Yep.
So far, Enrico Road is the only one that's come up with an issue. It's also the only one with a severe incline on it. So that may have something to do with it as well.
Okay. Dick, do you have another question?
I do, thank you. The developer is Fiano, is it?
I believe so, but I
was going to say, I think it was.
have the subdivision in front of me, so I can't confirm that.
So if Fiano, we could find out who, what supplier he used, couldn't we?
Who knows?
I mean, it's worth a try.
It might be.
That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Based on what everybody has said, seems to me we are really in a position where we should go ahead now, and I would move that we go to public vote to allow the up to 220,000 for this project now. After any of these other comments are not roads, they are. But I think we're kind of in a situation where we don't have a choice. I think the prudent thing to do is to take what Josh and Sandy originally said, and go ahead and do this now. So I move we go to public vote for the up to 220,000 and fix what we know now.
Okay, now, Bob, I think that was a motion, correct?
Correct.
So I need a second on that motion.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on it? Charlie, I think you have your hand up, or did that just not come down from last
That
time?
just didn't come down.
Okay.
I have a question though. Do we have to specify where we're going to take this money from? And if so, I think we should take it from the rainy day fund. This is a unanticipated failure, and I think would fit appropriately into that.
Well,
Josh?
we still have to go to public vote, right?
Well, there could be an amendment to the motion to specify the source, so.
So Bob DiPietro, are you willing to amend your motion to include Bob Monroe's suggestion of the funds to come out of the rainy day fund?
Only if Sandy agrees.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Can I have a second on the amended motion?
I'll second it, Ross.
Okay. Dick Tuttle, I see you have your hand up. Dick, did you have another question?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. How much do we have in the rainy day fund? 250?
No, the rainy day fund is the larger pot of money.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right. Yes, yeah. Understood. Thank you.
I think.
Emily, this is Linda. Who did the second on the first motion?
Ross.
Thank
No,
you.
first motion.
Oh, the
First
first
motion.
motion,
Bob.
Bob Monroe.
Okay, thanks.
And then the amended motion was Ross.
Mhm.
Correct.
And so the rainy day fund has how much in it?
I believe it's upward of $1 million. Jill, for some reason, 1.3 million is in my head, but it might be more than that. I did just want to jump in and see if Jill also has a comment on taking it from the rainy day fund or the general fund. My thought was that the money that is being carried forward from last year would be better utilized for this, given the fact that we may be going out to bond in fiscal year 2022, and they're usually looking for a net increase in the rainy day fund as opposed to, not necessarily paying as close attention. And by them, I mean the bond rating agencies, not paying as close attention to reallocations from the general fund, and the fact to move forward an additional $290,000 over what we had originally expected, that might be a better source of funds for this project from the bonding perspective.
I absolutely agree with you, Josh. Touching that rainy day fund will only be bad for our bond rating going forward when we have to bond. It's not a good idea. We have it in the excess. I agree with you that that's, I believe, where it should come from also.
Can I chime in, Emily?
Yes.
We have a roof project that we hope to be moving forward that's going to have to go out to bond, along with potentially air conditioning for center schools. So, and that's coming up for maybe next year.
Okay. So,
Emily,
yes,
before you go on, Sandy made a good point before about the fact that we should bond the additional 2% for the performance bond. I forgot to mention that in my motion. So I want to amend the motion to make sure we include the performance bond.
so, sorry, the which bond?
Correct?
Well, you made it for 200.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
The performance bond.
Oh, the performance bonds.
Yes.
So that is the
Yes.
2% on top of the 213, correct? No?
No?
Sandy?
Yeah, the total with the performance bond is 218, and I believe Bob put the amount of 220 in his
Right.
motion, so that would cover the current bid and the performance bond.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So Josh and Jill, you had indicated that if you take earlier in your report, sort of the end of last fiscal year, you had $520,000 that were unexpended, of which 225 were already promised to this fiscal year, and leaving us 295,000 in unaudited, unexpended funds. Or what you're saying is that we can use that and roll it into this particular thing, so we do not have to take it out of rainy day fund?
Correct.
If the allocation comes from the general fund, that's where all of this all of the unexpended funds from the previous fiscal year have gone back to the general fund at this point in time. So any appropriation from the general fund would be essentially from those unexpended funds being rolled forward.
Okay, so we have two potential sources to pay for this. Right now, the motion on the floor says to take it from the rainy day fund. We do have another source that we could take it from the general fund. And we know that there is money that will roll over from last year into that fund that in excess of that amount. So that could cover it. Bob and Roe?
My concern here is, and Jill, do you have the number for the total rainy day fund?
1.7 million.
1.7 million.
It's
My
not
concern is-
enough. The percentage is way below what
Would
what
be
we
reductive.
really should have.
I understand that. But here's what I also understand is that if we take that $220,000, which is an appropriate amount, thank you, Bob, to include the bonding, we're going to have a real steep hill decline come March with the budget.
Well, Bob, you have to remember though that this doesn't include the excess of the Board of Ed or the excess in the revenues. So there's still some money there also.
I am quite aware of all of that when I make that statement.
So, so Bob, if I'm reading you correctly, your concern about taking it out of the general fund is that takes away from what we have moving forward or rolling into next year's budget process.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I wonder how much of an impact rating agencies would put on such a thing when we end up with a failed road, which, I mean, of course, in these days, it seems like everything is just an absolutely unique problem that's never occurred before. That certainly hasn't occurred on my watch. And just as the reaction to this whole virus thing, I think, and we had previous discussion on this, what would happen if we had, additional significant expenses that were not planned for? What would we do? My response was that's type of thing for a rainy day fund. So my thought remains the same. I understand Josh's caution. But at the same time, interest rates are so incredibly low. I'm hard pressed to think that the difference would be measurable. I mean, significantly measurable when you compare it against the potential for tax increases that we would need to go forward to support the budget that we'll be considering in the winter. So I understand all the concerns. I'm of a different mind.
Okay. Well, the motion, any further discussion?
What did Jill recommend? What did Jill recommend?
Jill recommended to pay for it not out of the rainy day fund, but out of the general fund, knowing that there is surplus in there from unexpended from last fiscal year.
Sandy, did you change your mind?
I'm fine with either approach.
Oh, boy. That's the help me.
So I think the motion on the floor is that we are going to, that we do approve this $220,000 to go to town meeting, and that it would come out of the rainy day fund. That is the motion on the floor. There has been discussion that there might be an alternative place as to where we take the money from. Kristen, did you have a comment?
I do. I mean, first off, we have to get this done. I think that's clear and evident. But do we necessarily have to decide right now where we're taking it from? I mean, I think we need to vote right now with just moving forward with the project. And then I think it would probably serve us all well to think about, after we have that approved, about where we're going to take the funds from, as opposed to trying to throw in an amendment that I'm not really necessarily comfortable with, but I feel like I need a little bit more thought process behind it, some more discussion. That's my thoughts.
Sandy?
We have to tell the town meeting where the funds will come from.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Josh?
Thanks, Emily. I just want to let everybody know that unfortunately, it would be a long document to try and read through right now, but Moody's, which is the bond rating agency that we've used in the past, does have a pretty lengthy document that they've posted on their website about the statistical likelihood of having your credit rating downgraded in the event that you use your rainy day funds. And it goes through some of their math and their thought process through this. It was my recommendation, along with Jill's, to the Board of Selectmen that it come from the general fund. It remains my recommendation, and I really wholeheartedly hope that you'll vote that way. Thank you.
And again, this is Ross, and listening to the additional information presented, I would lean in favor of, doing what we can to make sure that we keep our bond rate good. And so originally I was thinking along the lines of using the rainy day fund, but then when I've been hearing the information presented by, Josh, and by Jill about the potential for impact to our bond rating, which is, could be a longer term thing than 1 year of our budget. And then, to mention this, schools looking at doing some bonding, as well as, there may be other issues that come up that the town bond on as well. And so I'm thinking it probably would be prudent to, take it out of the general fund, because as Sandy was saying earlier, if this had happened, before July, it would have been taken care of with the excess, which has been from last year, which has been rolled over. So I'm leaning toward, I'm going to the let's take it out of the general fund is my thought. So if we were to vote on the motion as it stands, I would say no to it.
Okay.
Emily,
Yes.
can I withdraw my motion?
You may withdraw your amendment, yes. And I need a second of the withdrawn amendment. So it will go back to the original, your original motion of $220,000 to go to town meeting, from
General.
the general fund.
Seconded.
Okay, Dick Tuthill seconded that, Linda. Okay, so any further discussion on the motion? So again, the motion is on the floor of $220,000 to go to town meeting from the general fund.
Correct.
Then at this point, I will call for a vote by roll call. Bob DiPietro,
Aye. Yes.
Charlie Dana,
Yes.
Ross Lally,
Aye.
Kristen Gurley,
Aye.
Bob Monroe,
Hi, I've been swayed by my
Dick Tuttle,
board members.
aye, and Emily Bradley, aye. So that passes unanimously. I got everybody, yeah. That passes unanimously. So you guys can take it to town meeting, whatever that looks like. Is there anything else that you need us, Sandy, to do with respect to this issue?
Show up and vote yes at the town meeting, please.
I will.
Sandy, this is Ross. Any wetlands impacts or no?
I believe the only excavation or changes to the system will be under the existing roadbed. So that's my guess at this point, but it is a guess, and I'll make sure that Josh talks to Barbara Kelly before we go ahead and do anything.
Yeah, because I just was going to say, because our next meeting is on Tuesday next week, and if this looked like something that delegated to Barbara because there was no work in the wetlands themselves, then it would be good to have something for us to discuss on Tuesday next week.
Okay, we can make that happen.
Yep,
So
I'll
then,
touch
yeah.
base with you tomorrow, Ross.
Okay.
Okay. I don't see anything else under new business, and we've wrapped up that. We've done everything we need. Quick question. Is that going to be at the same town meeting as the conversation about the
Yes.
contract?
Teacher's
Okay.
contract, yes.
So October 6th, tentatively.
I love you all.
I'm sorry, Bob?
I love you all.
If there is no other, I mean, we've come to the end of our agenda. So if there's nothing else, I want to just say thank you to Sandy and the Board of Selectmen and Kristen and the Board of Education for keeping us afloat, keeping us moving in the right direction and supporting our townspeople and the children in our town. It's been one hell of a 2020 and it's not over yet. And I'm really hoping that things just keep going up, not uphill, but up. So
Thank you.
thank you guys for your leadership. It's been remarkable and amazing. Keep at it. And you will get a vacation at some point.
Thank you.
And on that note, I just need the final motion of the evening.
We'll move.
So based on Charlie seconding the motion to adjourn, so this meeting is here adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Happy Thursday.
Yep, bye-bye.